On that flight, Meghan refused to touch or look after Archie even once. She didn't look at him. She had zero interest when he was upset. And she expected the staff the entire time to take care of that baby. This British Airways staff member insisted to me that it was very obvious to her that there was zero connection between mother and child.
All right, let's get into this because, wow, this whole situation reads like a behind-the-scenes documentary that Meghan Markle would definitely not approve. And honestly, it's one of those stories where the more you hear, the more the pieces start to fall into place. The PR stunts, the inconsistencies, the be nice when Harry's watching act, everything. So here's the gist. A British Airways air hostess, senior staff, not some random trainee, allegedly approaches a journalist out of nowhere and basically says, "Look, the Meghan Markle everyone sees in curated photos and carefully crafted PR clips."
There was a reason that the other day, Meghan Markle used this hapless American Airlines hostess to put out a whole load of propaganda about what a brilliant passenger she was on flights. Because let me tell you, I have been working for some time on a story that was prompted to me by a British Airways air hostess about the total opposite. About the fact that Ms. Markle is now famous for the atrocious ways that she treats crews on international flights, including, by the way, on American Airlines. So I'm going to reveal everything I know about this and how it came about, because it truly is fascinating. And it's also an insight into the way that Meghan Markle will use ordinary people to try and wage PR campaigns on her behalf. So I was sitting down on a British Airways flight about 6 months ago now. And I was approached completely out of the blue by a senior staff member on board. I'm, of course, protecting that woman's identity for obvious reasons. And she said to me, "Dan, I really need to speak to you about Meghan Markle." Now, this woman first looked after Meghan Markle on board her flight to South Africa. You remember at the time that Archie was a young child. And this woman was just utterly horrified by the fact that Meghan Markle was attempting to present herself as someone who treated staff well, when indeed Meghan's treatment of air hostesses on board flights is nothing short of abysmal. Now, some of you might think, well, she's an under-stress duchess. Of course that goes on. Fine. But then do not try and present to the world that you're someone who staff members on flights, on planes absolutely love. Now, I actually do believe that the way that you treat staff on board a flight is quite indicative of your personality. Because we all know these are great people and they're looking after you in difficult circumstances. And so I want to tell you just a little bit about what I learned firstly about Meghan's behaviour on board that flight to South Africa, because it is very telling. And remember, Archie at that point was a young child. So this air hostess reported to me that on that flight, Meghan refused to touch or look after Archie even once. She didn't look at him. She had zero interest when he was upset. And she expected the staff the entire time to take care of that baby. This British Airways staff member insisted to me that it was very obvious to her that there was zero connection between mother and child. There were a team of staff there, including at least one nanny, who was feeding the baby bottles. What was so fascinating too is that Meghan Markle was only polite to the staff on board that flight when Prince Harry was around. The staff member told me that when Harry was not in direct earshot or in the vicinity, she was like a different person. And again, That's a small detail, but it's one that I think is very important because it does suggest that there is some manipulation of Prince Harry that goes on, and some reason why, when she's constantly reported by staff on both sides of the Atlantic as a bully, Harry is very shocked by this because clearly Meghan does change and become a different person when he was around.
Not even close to the Meghan Markle we get on flights. And the wild part? This didn't just happen once. According to the story, Meghan has a whole history of diva-like, condescending, icy behavior on flights, long before she ever married Harry or had global fame. Airline staff apparently knew her reputation. Like, before she was a duchess, she was already infamous in flight crew circles. That alone tells you something. Let's be brutally honest here. The story the air hostess shared and the follow-up reports from American Airlines crew paint a very consistent picture of someone who is extremely image-conscious.
Now, what was interesting is this staff member said, but the thing is, Dan, this is not new. Meghan Markle had a reputation with airline staff for many years before she even entered the royal family. And this was because, of course, she would often crisscross from across the Atlantic in order to attend Soho House events and also in order to attend filmings for movies between seasons of Suits. And I was told that I needed to look into Meghan Markle's treatment of staff. So I did. And the first thing I found out that was very interesting is that Meghan always used to insist that she be upgraded on flights, even though she would not purchase the higher ticket class herself. And this was something that started to infuriate crew because she was just so consistently rude to them when she was on board. And so I spent a number of months attempting to contact other people within the airline industry who had experience with Meghan Markle. She tends to, these days, when she's flying commercial, fly on American Airlines. And the American Airlines staff that I spoke to were absolutely insistent that Meghan Markle was the worst celebrity they had ever had to serve. They were absolutely insistent that her behavior on board flights was diva-like, rude, cold, and demanding. And that's why they were particularly shocked when this video emerged of an American Airlines flight attendant trying to suggest to the world that Meghan was the nicest person to look after on board a flight. My understanding is that this was a arranged PR stunt. Because again, when I'm speaking to the American Airlines staff members, they have insisted to me that it simply would not be acceptable for them to post publicly on TikTok about their experience with a famous passenger. It goes against every single contractual rule. It could actually lead to disciplinary action. And the fact that this air hostess also publicly shared the contents of a note provided by the passenger would cross every ethical line. So the American Airlines staff that I have spoken to have been very clear to me that they believe this was an arranged setup. And my understanding is that Meghan has been trying to get ahead of this story. She wanted to use this flight attendant to try and make the point that actually she is very nice to staff on board, when actually that is not the reality. And she knows that she is protected by the anonymity of these airline staff members who cannot speak out publicly, even once they have left the airline, because they could be sued, they would be in breach of contract, and certainly if they are still serving staff members, serving cabin crew, it's just not even an option. So before I get analysis on this from P. Diner, the royal YouTube sensation, here's a reminder of that video posted on TikTok by the American Airlines flight attendant, and then, by the way, PR'd to the likes of People magazine so that the story went viral around the world. Watch.
Had on my flight, who I had a pleasure of serving, the Queen, the Princess, the Duchess of Sussex. The Meghan Markle was on my flight, and she's so beautiful in person. She was so sweet. She wrote us a little handwritten note back. So we wrote her a note that said, "It's a pleasure of serving you. We love you real bad." And she wrote this note back that says, "Dear AA girlies, thank you for the love, hospitality, and handwritten note. You know me well. All love right back to you." And then I think it says, "Forever, Megan." You know, I can barely read this cursive, but look at this handwriting is giving rich. It's giving expensive. It's giving princess. She also said she loved my nails, and the captain on my last flight said they were intense. So, sir, it doesn't matter what you think. The queen says she likes them.
So, P. Dinah, all of this is far too coincidental for me. The fact that I'd been working on this story for a number of months, speaking and taking my time to speak to as many people who had served or looked after Meghan on board flights, mainly long haul flights. And then all of a sudden, as I'm going about doing that, this video drops. It's leaked to People magazine, which we know is Meghan's current propaganda outfit of choice. And there's no consequences for this flight attendant who has broken every single contractual rule of American Airlines.
Treat staff poorly when no cameras are around. Uses PR to counter damaging narratives. Demands special treatment. Changes personalities depending on the audience. Has a strained or distant connection with her own child, at least at that time. Can flip from warm to icy in seconds. None of this is new in the Meghan Markle narrative. But what makes this story powerful is that it comes from a professional group of people known for dealing with celebrities quietly in the background.
Megan is so desperate to be liked, but doesn't want to change anything about who she is in terms of just being authentic. And I think she has to make these little stunts to make herself seem likable. And it's just disgusting that you would even do this. I mean, it's clearly it is a setup. Megan is the worst of them all because, her whole claim thing is I'm not even speaking to my father because of, taking pictures for the paps or, having these pictures taken of him. Look, she does it too. Look, she does it all the time. Megan is so bad when it comes to just being a real good person because this proves she has to make these little stunts to be likable because otherwise people don't like her because of what you were saying before, like the stories around how she treated the whole crew on the flights. I mean, she's just not a nice person, and Harry doesn't even apparently see it. I mean, I think it's slipped. It has shown itself sometimes, and Harry just doesn't want to wake up to his reality that his wife is nothing like the late Princess Diana. His wife is a nasty piece of work. And she has shown herself to people that know, and it makes a lot of sense that people would say these things about her because she knows she's not being filmed. She knows that she's not in front of cameras. So her real true self comes out in these intimate moments. And, hearing them say these things about her, it just validates everything that we've said about her. She's just not a good person. She bullies people, and she's just not even a good mother. I mean, what kind of person doesn't even look at their child and, want the staff to constantly feed them? She doesn't want anything to do with her own children. They are props in this whole PR game that she is playing to make her look like a loving mother. She is nothing to be admired. Her true self is nasty. She's a bully, and she doesn't have a good bone in her body. And she deserves all the negative PR that she gets and people speaking out against her because we need to hear people telling us who the real Meghan Markle is because we see it and we just need it validated. And thank goodness people are able to validate the things that we know about her and what people have said, because you can't keep going around acting and being this kind of person while trying to appear to be this really good natured person who's trying to do good in the world. I mean, that's fraud. Okay, that is right there being a very sinister, devious, not good person. It's so bad. And I think us talking about it, Dan, has to continue because she will keep trying to get over on people in her celebrity likeness. She'll keep trying to make this thing work. If people don't come out and say the truth about who she really is. And I'm so glad to hear that. And American Airlines should definitely do something about this setup with this agent because it doesn't look good for American Airlines that their flight attendant is coming out and revealing personal information on a note from a celebrity. How would that make other celebrities feel? If they're on a flight, or they're going to be outed and talked about by name to the world on social media. It's just not a good look for American Airlines as well. Something needs to be done about that for sure.
Totally. I mean, it was so obviously a setup, obviously a setup. And the thing is, I can honestly, hand on heart, tell you, P. Diner, that I was not pursuing this story until I was approached first by that British Airways staff member, then by a separate American Airlines staff member. And this was long before that video ever came out.
Flight crews don't have an agenda. They don't care about royalty. They care about respect, kindness, and basic decency at 35,000 feet. And when multiple crew members from multiple airlines across multiple years say the same thing, it becomes very, very difficult to dismiss it all as jealousy or racist tabloids. This isn't the palace. This isn't the media. This isn't political. This is service staff. And these people remember everything. Let me know what you think about this video in the comment section. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.